My parents are dead. My mom has been dead since I was 21, and my dad died when I was 25. I just turned 27. Losing parents is always expected in life. It's just how life is supposed to happen. Everyone assumes their parents will die before them. But we try not to assume when. My mom was 41 when she died. OD. My dad was 62 when he died. COVID. I never talk about them anymore. It's hard to talk about them when I am so busy in my day-to-day life. But I thought that maybe I could just vent to the Reddit world about my parents, so that maybe it'll make people who still have their decent parents hug them a little more often. My mom would call me every other day. Usually during a work shift. I'd answer, pissed off, and say, "Mom, I told you I had to work today. Why are you calling me?" It happened so often, but in hindsight, I was her only child. She just fucking missed me. The day she died, I was working. My dad walked into the pharmacy and he looked confused, but determined. I thought maybe grandma died, or maybe he finally bought me that car he was hoping to get me all these years. It could have went either way, based on his expression. She probably would have called me during my shift, had she not been dead already. I don't know what's worse, the fact that I dropped to my knees screaming at the top of my lungs when my dad muttered the words, "It's true, honey." She didn't wake up this morning, or the fact that if she would have called me during my shift, I would have told her to fuck off. My dad texted me every morning. Especially since mom died. We would meet for breakfast once a week. He'd be sure to tell me I was his favorite child, and he'd make me swear not to tell my older siblings they knew, everyone knew. My brother and sister are old enough to be my parents. Of course I was his favorite. I was like his grandchild, but actually his grandchildren are always the favorites. My dad would send me sunset photos every time he'd see a good one. When I moved to California on a whim, he begged me not to go and cried when I told him I had to go look for myself. He eventually commended me for doing it, and said he feels prideful in the fact that his daughter is capable of making such big choices with grace and certainty. That was the best compliment I'd ever gotten. The day he died, I laid in the hospital bed with him. My family stood across the room and watched me get into his hospital bed with him. He was on a ventilator. They pulled it out and dosed him with morphine to make it painless for him. I laid on his chest until I felt it stop reaching for air. When I close my eyes, sometimes I can still hear his last exhale. Thanks for reading, if you've made it this far. Life is hard in your 20s, and harder when you don't have parents to tell you what will make it easier.